Hello. Hi, this is Amit Kumar Vishwakarma. So, we are all here for this panel discussion, which is organized under the umbrella of Between Watch and Witness, which was a solo exhibition of photographs by Sharath Murugu. So, the title of this talk is Framing Futures, Rethinking Photography Pedagogy and its Afterlife in Contemporary Art Discourse. So before we begin, I want to share how today's session is structured. So you can see that we are seated in a very circular seating arrangement. So this was like intentional to remove the hierarchy and to also make it truly round table discussions. So the circle includes not just speaker but also you as a part of this talk. So the talk will move in three flexible rounds, that is round A, B, and C. And so usually we thought that we'll invite questions immediately after the each speaker finishes, but I think that will be so much chaos. So, so the questions will be discussed after the whole session is completed, but I, being observer and listener for the many years, I have observed that what happens when sometimes your question just fades away after a 1 year hour of talk. So I'll ask all of you to write it somewhere so that you don't miss out your questions and you do and don't worry about if the question is making sense or not, because yeah, I think we are going to discuss some nonsense things. So finally, on a note on why photography is the center of this conversation. So photographs have long primary evidence of the histories and the text experiences. So the tension between the photographs, preservation, and what slips away forms the ground for our discussion now. So I'll start with good evening, Shubh Sandhya, and Shubh Shayandram, everyone. And all are welcome to this roundtable. Today we are here to reflect on photography, not just as a medium of making images, but also as a tool of pedagogy, a practice of accessibility, and a field negotiating sustainability in today's climate where censorship and self-surveillance has become part of everybody's life. So we have with us three debut speakers of Hyderabad's Art Talk, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And so the first one is Suresh Mamdapur. He's a art teacher and he's currently heading charge and associate professor in Department of Fine Arts, Sarojini Naidu School of Arts and Communication. Guys, clap. So the second speaker we have is Vinod Venkapalli, who is a photographer, but who also prefers to identify as a visual artist. That we will be discussing later why. So, so the third one is G. Vignesh. I hope a very familiar face of Hyderabad. And so he's a lens-based practitioner, writer, curator, like too many hats he's wearing right now. So he has been working in and for Hyderabad for over a decade, more than a decade. So the format will move on three rounds, as I said. So starting with the introduction and affiliation with the photograph, and then accessibility and easy approaches to the practice, and then finally sustainability and authenticity of the present context. So I'll begin this conversation. I hope everybody is in their senses and we are going to start the talk. Sorry. So round A is about introduction and affiliation with photograph. So first I would like you, Sunil, to speak with you. So can you introduce a little about your teaching practice, especially your work, site-specific art practice, and how do images and moving images become the most approached medium in your classrooms?
Thank you for calling me here. Uh, it's good that all of our young people. It's not the old people are very threatening. I'm old, but all are young. I'm saying. Uh, Good to see all of you, and Sharath, congratulations. Very nice exhibition for you also. First duration, so it's a good show. Uh, Coming back to teaching, uh, first of all, I am the wrong person here actually. I am not a photographer, and it's a wrong time and wrong place. I'm sitting here. So, but we do have, we come across during our teaching because the fine art is become very different altogether at the moment, and it's a very interesting time we are living in, particularly in fine arts, because a lot of expressions are seeping in. We are not confined to one particular practice. Unlike any other discipline, they are still stuck to one particular ways of expressing moving image or photography or music. But in fine arts, we are doing music also, we are doing moving image also, we are sculpting and painting and all kind of things are we are doing. It's a very interesting time we are living, so that's very interesting. Uh, so asking me about teaching in site specific or in any other courses which I deal with in our department with students, uh, photography and video, of course, in master degree, we generally don't teach any technicality at all because we really encourage them to build their own language, and once the language is visibly we can see, then they develop their own ways of making those ideas or developing their own skill. So in that they mix with multiple methods. If particular student is literally trained in printmaking or trained in painting, if conceptually we are developing them, then they realize it is suitable for performance or even music or all kind of expressions. So we encourage them into that direction. But when we encourage, we don't teach techniques. We ask them to go into this direction because that suits their practice. So then they develop their own technical methodology, or they learn, or like that. So our judging method is also not based on technique, how well this particular work is executed. It is mostly about the how well it is expressed and what is the connection it is making to the people. So that is there. So for photography, on moving image, it is automatically it comes to them because much before fine arts, getting into fine arts, they know these mediums. It's very easy for them. So because they are taking pictures, they are seeing the videos and other kind of thing. So the preparation itself, like earlier, we used to have a preparation with the sketches, drawings, other kind of things, and these are a new kind of sketches for us, videos and the pictures. So they bring that, when we go out from the studio, and we locate ourselves in a multiple. And sometimes we give them a challenge. Sometimes we keep it open, like challenge in a sense. There was one particular project. We went to Sarojini Naidu's house, and we took that house for 25 days, and we challenged the student that within this compound we have to create the artwork, looking at the history, looking at the story, looking at the people, understanding them, understand the history, read and everything, then come up with an image. So this is a restriction and also challenge. So they are not allowed to go out of this compound. They can bring out some materials which is necessary for the expression, and that also with justification. And during that time, they come up with these pictures, photographs of existing photograph, or they take the photograph, new way to see the home, new way to see the building, because that's also a historical, political, and also personal, that how home. So they are looking at that through picture only initially, before making the work, I'm saying. So each and every material they are observing through camera. So, but end of the work, it may not be necessary that camera work will come up as a main work. It may be the process or path to reach to the work. So that is how we attempt camera or a moving image. So while making the work, we end up putting Sarojini Naidu's speech or some sort of or her poetries we are recording and reciting and putting that in the video form, audio form, or a picture of her, particular one of the student, very interesting student. Uh, I'm not sure whether I should tell here. So, but it's a very interesting way he looked at. He assumed that particular one of the room of that entire building was the bedroom of Sarojini Naidu. So I don't know how. He just assumed because he felt there's only a single door and most of them having a two doors. So this must be a bedroom, like that he assumed. Because in reading and researching, he didn't get those kind of details, whether it's a bedroom. So he assumed that this is a bedroom. So he wanted to look at he says that according to him, people always look at Sarojini Naidu as a political figure or a poet or a freedom fighter. He wanted to see through husband's eye because it's a bedroom. I want to see romantically to Sarojini Naidu. So that's a beautiful work he approached, and through that she's giving the speeches to multiple places. He took those pictures, and the same picture he converted very romantically. That's a very interesting challenge. So, and also when we tell them that how do we use those images, because these are historical images, and when we are taking and utilizing in our own work, one need to be careful and not all. So with justification and concept, he used that. So I remember when final display was happening, the one of the members came there, which is connected to Sarojini Naidu, very close friend. She started crying, and we didn't understand why she's crying. And this was her bedroom.
Oh, wow.
This was her bedroom. So the way he was looking at her, we thought people will get offended. Somebody is close to her. But they felt it so good because we are consciously, carefully executing that work. It's not that we are afraid of offending people, because sometimes we do want to offend. It's necessary. But here it is a very sensitive area because it's a very personal area. So one need to be careful there. So we are using the image very carefully, the whatever photographs existed and whoever took that photograph. So that's how I came to that point. I don't want to elaborate further. So this is how in our course the picture and moving image comes. And I stay away with those technicality because I just don't know. And not only photograph, the most of the techniques I just don't get into that area.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing such very insight stories from your project. So, Vinod, over a call you mentioned you prefer the term visual artist, and even though many of us know you as a photographer, and So could you share what difference you see between a photographer and a visual artist in your whole journey?
First of all, thank you for having me here, and thanks to all of you for coming. It's nice to see a full house in Hyderabad. And I started calling myself a visual artist, I think, since 3 years. That's when I also realized like photography has been a practice which has been chaining me a lot to the camera. And for me, it has been very difficult to come out of those chains. I started off as a street photographer, like all of you in this room, where we just go take images, few friends, all of us together. And then what started to happen is single image didn't do anything to me because I had lots to express, I had lots to tell. Then I was just wondering, what am I doing with just a single image, taking the camera, maybe going to Old City, going to Banaras, and just taking one picture of someone whom I don't even know. And afterwards, then I started to understand photography. I came across Magnum, Agency Woo, and Noor Images, and there are lots of very good uh, collectives across the world. And I started researching, and then I understood that maybe single image is not that interests me the most. And then I did documentary for a very, very long time. But even that started feeling, because it's very difficult to make change with documentary. I think it's total jazz when someone says documentary and I'm going to change lives, because I couldn't change any life with my documentary. And rather I started feeling that I'm exploiting people by just making work and submitting and getting awards and other things. And I also worked as a journalist for Reuters. And that's when I think I lost everything, because I was not even understanding what I was shooting. There were deadlines forced upon me. I was just clicking images, and I would get calls from my editors saying, okay, now you just send the image. So I don't even know whom I'm been shooting. So for me, I think photography that way has been like like a chain which I had to get loose. And afterwards COVID happened, and I was stuck in the house for a long time. Then I started to paint, which has always been how I've become an artist. I think my mother always used to encourage me to paint. And then now I do video, and I also do sculpture. And in the recent exhibition in Japan, I collected lots of sculpture that happens around Hyderabad, around faith, and I've put them on the walls. And I really think right now photography is just a medium with which I can express, but not like the medium. And I think that's when I slowly erased my boundaries. And when I went to University of Hyderabad, and I see like how this overlapping happens between mediums, and I think that's really interesting. And yeah, and also I used to take images before, and I think I make images now. And also I spend lots of time with my computer in my room understanding why I've taken an image and what is the psychology behind taking images. So that's why I think now I just don't call myself a photographer anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think many of us will get to know like new students who are actually dealing with photographs will understand like why how photographs becomes a module and a language, and it helps to like generate a lot of other contemporary artworks. So Vignesh, for you, you have done your initial studies in painting, and you are someone who has a great interest in skill and specialized practices. So maybe less technical practices. But then, how did photograph becomes your first hand medium, and how do you see photograph? Like, what does it mean to you professionally and personally?
Hello everyone. Firstly, yeah, thanks for inviting me and for the panel. And I'm not a good speaker. Uh, Perhaps I'm a good writer. uh, Coming to your question, actually it starts from uh, I finished my graduation in painting from Kent School of Art, and then when I joined SN School for my masters to pursue art history and visual studies, so which is completely theoretical, lot of readings and writings, and I couldn't get much time to even draw or sketch or do something, which I always missed while I was studying. Then yes, there were also elective courses which I took, like painting and mostly painting, and other theoretical courses from other departments. but still, like, I wanted to, like, there is this um, urge inside me, like I wanted to express visually, like, whatever I'm seeing. So when the drawing and painting medium was not accessible for me at that time, the time was not permitting to that, then my phone, like my smartphone, become a handy, like, I started clicking photographs. But I always kept interest in clicking photographs, whatever I'm seeing, where I'm traveling, mostly traveling photographs, like, especially from the train. I have created a train series, a photo book on train series. So yeah, so um, when I'm looking at any particular object or a set of people and any landscape, I wanted to capture it, and in my mind is actually thinking like I don't want to capture it for the sake of it, but I'm seeing, like, other dimension of how I can, like, manipulate it. So then I started experimenting with the photographs. I used to click them because that has become a primary layer for me. Just clicking it for that time being, as you can also call it the rough sketches. Um, then I used to use multiple phone apps, Android apps, where I can be able to, like, manipulate it. Or sometimes, like, when I'm clicking, I want to see if there is a leaf, then I could see, like, it has a life. I want to show a life, so I started giving a motion to it. uh, I just don't want to see it and show it as still. So I started adding motions to it. So that's how I, like, started enjoying it for myself. And then it was 2014. Uh, Instagram was booming at that time, and then I opened my first account. Um, the and I didn't have any audience. Like, Insta become my first what do you say, like, a cloud portfolio. I started uploading on them, and then whatever likes I'm getting, that's like I used to take it as appreciation. Uh, and slowly, like, I also I connected with many people, and I started seeing works of others, which also inspired me to, like, keep doing this, what I'm doing. I didn't make any sense then. I still, like, I keep enjoying whatever I do. Honestly, I didn't do any shows so far, and I could only say, like, my Instagram has more than 3,000 posts, which is full of my work. Which Yeah, like, that's what I could say about, like, that's how I got into photography. And professionally, I haven't at I started very lately. I started looking at my works as professionally, as in, when I actually left the uh, galleries and started getting back to my practice. Because when I was working with the galleries, I was thinking through a critical perspective, as a curator, and I wasn't looking at my work as work. I was just enjoying it. But yeah, but when people started noticing it, and few curators and my peers, my friends and all, so this is work, like, this is a good set of work. You should display them. You should exhibit them and all. Then I started, rethinking about my works. Then in fact, like, I scrolled down from where I started. It took me like more than an hour, like, when I was scrolling down. So it was a fun revisiting my old works, and which actually gave me a sense of understanding myself and my own language, what I was trying to create, without unconsciously, because, I wasn't thinking at that time. So yeah, that's what.
Thank you so much. It was like, you should see his Instagram. So yeah, so we actually wrapped up round A. So round B talks about photography as an easy approach and accessibility, because now we see that photography is already coming across as the most accessible medium and very easy medium, and so the more it is becoming easy, it's been also exploited at the same time, where we have like this. So almost everyone is carrying camera in their pocket, and so the question arises that, but how does the accessibility shapes pedagogy and practice? So Sunil sir, from your experience, uh, I think you have told us why do images and moving images become the default choice, but I think people are not clear with what actually site-specific art practice is.
Okay. Site specific, I do take one course in Essence School, uh, which is going to start very soon. Uh, it's basically what it's a very interesting practice. I really like that particular course, although I'm not a practitioner of site specific art, but I understand, I believe I understand. Uh, and also I felt that the student should know this particular course. It's not about learning particular art medium or art expression, but in general for life it's the best thing to learn, site specific. Why I feel, and I'll come back to the technical aspect of later. uh, the site specificity is positioning yourself in and contextually positioning yourself in a particular time. So, and in general, also in our life, we should be doing that wherever you are, whatever you are doing, and whatever medium you are having it. Whether it is a painting, printmaking, sculpture, photography, whatever it is, I believe uh, in your hand there is a power, and that will translate in front of the people. So, and you have those choices to make where what you are going to do. It's not random. So, in that position, so if your accountability is there, what you are seeing in front of you is essential, I believe, because you are not alone at all in this world. We are all are connected with everything around us, including the water or a tree or land or building or forest, whatever it is. So when we take our students in a particular course to the location, when I just explained about the building, about uh, Sarojini Naidu's house, similarly we take them to multiple locations, or sometimes we give them a freedom; they can choose the places. So what student has to do is they have to go to a particular locations, whatever they feel like. It's not necessary that this has to be. So when they choose the location, they have to study the place, and the primary restriction is that that's why I'm saying it's very important for even in general. Primary position is that as a human being, when we go to a particular location or a site, we should not bring our own choices and interests and whatever I believe in. So when you go to the site has to tell you that you have to accommodate with me. Site will tell you. The as an artist, so as a in general person. So when you go to the particular site, then you have to study the site and study the people, history, story, whatever available about that particular site. And based on that, you have to respond to, not to react to. The reaction is very easy in our art practice. Always it's a reaction. I always feel some of our students, they immediately react because the current life itself is like that, they want the immediate reactions. So responding takes time, because the responding is you need to understand what it is. So that's one of the reason students tend to react quickly. So I tell them that take time, draw, sketch, go and sit there in the location, whatever you have selected. Observe people, observe uh, tree, observe the air, observe the land. What happens there actually? Then meet people, discuss people, study people, note down all the history about that particular site. Then come up with an idea. Then ideas start coming. The one of the major restrictions for the student is when you go to a site specific, when you do the site specific artwork or enter into a site, you are not using that site to create an artwork. You are taking that place or being in that place to give something to the site. You know, by through your artwork, through your expression, not using it. So that is an ethical question for me. It's not for me, it's a word that practices whoever created is a brilliant creation of that particular practice. So that's what I feel is necessary to any people, any student to do that. This particular course need not have any artistic background at all. Anybody can do that. Only thing is responding to the place in whatever capacity you are. Because you need only sensibility to understand the place and people and surroundings. So similarly, what I said about that building, Solitary's house, or if we are going to there's one huge workshop, apartment workshop in University of Hyderabad, because recently universities, everything, they are purchasing it, all furnitures. So it becomes cheaper for them to using because earlier there are employees, everything they used to manufacture for the university, including chairs, tables and everything. So that was the huge workshop. So now the cheaper is because consumerism become very strong, marketplace is very strong. For us it is cheaper. So government will think saving the money of the taxpayer. So they said, no, we are not going to use that building. So that became a burden. So we went to that particular building for 25 days, 1 month, to respond to that place. It's extremely ghostly place because nobody is using it. So then we started getting into study area, people. You know, if one of the carpenter, he worked there for 30 years, continuously manufacturing something for the department or university, and suddenly he said, you are no use to the university. And he doesn't have a shop, he doesn't have a profession, so he become alcoholic. So these kind of stories become artist practice because they are entering into this research area, understanding the time, people who are involved in that area. Okay, so I got disconnected. Okay, so we are getting into multiple stories and people and everything. Then start responding it. So that the response itself is a creation of art. So it may not be pleasable or it's not a gallery wall kind of a artwork. They are using the material whatever they have found there, because there is a lot of restriction that you cannot be taking materials from outside unless there is a necessary for your art practice, because we always been trained as an artist that we make the artwork with a specific art material. So this site specific that breaks all the students. So in that there is a photo documentation is there, video recordings are there, sound recordings are there. So all kind of material will come and they try to articulate their ideas.
Yeah, I'm like glad that I think half of the purpose that to call him and is actually successful. I knew that this lesson should be shared with a lot of people because I know that it has like a lot of potential for young practitioners to learn from, and I think it did serve. I hope you guys are writing down your questions and all, just reminding you and moving ahead. So do you feel photography is sometimes treated as a shortcut in contemporary art practice? And how do you personally negotiate between the ease of accessibility and also the depth of inquiry in your case?
I think initially I used to get very annoyed when people don't do long-term works I used to also feel that why is someone just going maybe once in a month and making photographs? But then I realized over time, when I started also teaching workshops and other things, that everyone's purpose to make a photograph is different. So my purpose is completely different to a friend of mine who's a landscape architect, and he just likes birds and he goes with his zoom lens and takes images. So I think ease of accessibility, I think it's really nice because everyone can express in whatever way they want and to whomever they want. Sometimes, like, I just take images to make my mom happy because I've seen something which reminds her of my aunt who passed away. So I think ease of accessibility is really nice, that we have a phone in our pocket. And coming to, I think also, like, is it easy or not? It also depends. Like, for me, I had to wait for 7 years for one particular festival in Telangana to happen, to make one photograph where the where they actually behead the buffaloes in Devra. It's on the border of Rayalaseema. So I think it's also that where it's easy, but also to take a good photo, or, like, to really get a photo into your project also takes like a long time, and it's also lots to do with patience, I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah. So, Vignesh, wearing both hats, a practitioner and a curator in Hyderabad, what changes have you seen across the young emerging artists with the accessibility of photographs that have shaped their practices?
Okay. Um, as a curator, when uh, I look at photographs, like, because I have read critical analysis, visual theories, and looking at their work or looking at anyone's practice uh, is through a curatorial perspective is a different thing than being a practitioner and looking through that point of view. They are two like different things, but also it goes hand in hand. Um, so when it comes to sorry, I didn't get your question. Can you repeat me?
So, I was actually asking, like, what changes have you observed
Okay.
in how accessibility has shaped photography
Okay.
practices?
Yeah. So when we're talking about accessibility, we know, like, photograph has become so much accessible to most of us, which means, like, this flood of images, and also which also means a lot of experimentations, n number of experimentations. There is a lot of possibility. How the young practitioner are also looking at it, because as we were discussing, now earlier we used to, like, do sketches, right, for remembering. If you are seeing something, if you like it, those primary sketches are the preliminary sketches which you draw them to develop them later into your work. So now photographs have become those sketches. Like, if I like something, I click it, I'll go home, like, and I'll develop it into a drawing or painting or sculpture or whatever, like in my own uh, expression, in my own language. So yeah, now I'm seeing a lot of new media practices. When it comes to new media practices, the photography becomes the primary layer. Like, so that's where some artists, like, they put it. Okay, once they click it, that itself is a work for them. For many people, like, that is the what is the starting point, and they also incorporate photographs into installation and other forms of art also, like, move into moving images. So yeah, like, in the but from a curatorial perspective, I think how we still, like, in Hyderabad, I think we lack, but it's I'm just because I'm here and I have seen it. We still lack that appreciation towards photograph when it comes to, like, accommodating photograph into an exhibition into white cubes. Okay, yeah. So that thing I have seen, and that is a thing which I also see as challenging. Uh, but also that gives a lot of possibility to the young artists to come out and you understand photography as a media, into their own language.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Now we'll move ahead
Okay.
with the round third, which will discuss like when we have like flooded images coming into the universe, we should also concern about sustainability and authentic practices
Yeah.
in the age of censorship and self-surveillance. So this is the last round. I want to bring in the concern that sustainability and authenticity of our practices today, especially when we constantly are being monitored, self-surveillanced. So Sunil sir, in your teaching, where do you think photographs remain merely as photograph and where do they just change into sustainable practices?
I already shared this because how photographs comes into our practice. Because it will be repeating the same thing, but I want to just generally I can uh, talk about the sustainable practice. Uh, which that's one of the reason I told that this particular site specific practice, it's not about only an art activity or anything. In general also, we need to be aware that where I am, how I am oriented, and what is the position I'm having in existing life. So that becomes site specific. So site means it become a particular location, but I'm saying that in site in general, I'm saying that we have to orient ourselves, what I am going to do with this life as a purpose. So in sustainable practice is like that whatever technique you have, whatever medium you have in your hand, whether it is a photography or anything, and particularly photographic technique is very important because it is quickly taken and quickly spread to the world. So being photographer, I'm saying that everybody takes photograph. They are not photographer. But when I'm saying photographer, because it's technically they are aware, knowledgeable, and responsibly using that medium. Responsibility in a sense, I'm saying that if I am taking any particular picture, I know myself that it is going to spread very quickly to the world, and those medium in my hand, it's not some sort of a machine, because it is just like a gun to us. Because if you don't use it responsibly, it can harm. So when you are taking a certain kind of a picture without any responsibility, so that will also communicate with the people in a similar fashion. So take the picture responsibly, because normal people do it, and now in age of AI, and lot of manipulation is happening very quickly. So this is a very important time for us that we don't need to compete with the AI. In fact, we have to reverse that. We have to be slow down and need to be very careful. What kind of, how do I use this machine in my hand? Because there is always a competition between photographers. I'm not a photographer. I'm just saying whatever I see. Always a competition between photographers. They don't know what kind of machine I have in my hand, how better picture I can take. So even the subject becoming neutral to me, whether somebody is getting married or somebody is dying. For me, it is a aesthetic composition. That needs to be careful, because I am having this very powerful machine in my hand, and also it is spreading through lot of social media, Instagram particularly, or Facebook or whatever it is. Quickly it shares. So if I'm taking particular picture, I need to be careful that what is my composition, whom I am composing, whom I am avoiding, I know what I'm highlighting. These kind of things has to be very careful. It's not that I will be celebrated if I am taking the picture with a certain kind of a composition, aesthetically better, then everybody will like me or appreciate me in particular platforms. But instead, if I am using it very responsibly, when like when we go to a site specific, I come back to that particular practice because it somewhere down there we are engaging with the community. If I'm taking pictures, randomly people sitting, shop or beggar, whatever it is, I'm taking picture. I need to be aware that how do I take pictures, why I'm taking pictures, and where I'm going to use this picture and what responsibility I have. Because end of the day, I come back to that earlier point that when I'm taking a picture, I have to give something. It's not I'm taking, because that humanity is always like that. Thinks that everything is usable to me. That's why they use it, and that's one of the reason we are in certain situation that in a crisis, climate wise, environmental wise, because everything we are using it. So yeah, we, as an artist or as a responsible person, we need to be very conscious that what I'm going to give through this picture. It's not taking it and putting it in gallery. We have to connect to the people that what I'm going to give it to this particular people, like community. You know, so a lot of people like he was saying about his picture is taking from tribal practices or village practices. It is not aesthetically composition. It looks interesting to me. And when you take that picture and putting it in a gallery, and you will get the shock. Oh, who are these people? From where they are? What kind of practice they are? You get the reactions, but that's not enough for me as a reaction. But when I'm taking that picture, what is the contribution I'm going to make if I'm taking this picture to the gallery? To this community, we have to contribute. So that responsibility we need to have. I'm saying that. That's very important.
Yeah, thank you. Vinod, when you identify yourself as a visual artist, like, how do you think that photographs are surviving beyond just the label of photography? In today's climate of censorship.
Yeah, I think if you see what's happening today in terms of photo competitions and everything, I don't see photography is just about images. It has gone beyond. It has gone to a place where there are collaborations. There's a book called Lapuan by Charlotte Schmitz where she worked with a red light district and she took Polaroid photos of everyone there. And what she has done is she's given the Polaroids back to them, and she told them that we are going to present your story to the world, and how do you want to do it? So you know what everyone has done, they all have used their nail paint, they have censored faces. Some said, I want to show my face to the world, this is me, this is my name. Someone wrote that I still miss my child. So photography is now, I think, just a layer, but there is so much that is happening. And Beek Deputer, I think she worked on Palestine. She's from Magnum. What she has done is she didn't shoot the war, but she started shooting indoors with the family. There's like everyone together eating. And what she has done is she's taken these images to someone else and asked them to write on the images. So everything changes with respect to photography in 2025 and even in the 21st century, I think. And it's beautiful where it's going, because it's more of collaboration than just image as image. Because I think image as image is very raw and kacha, it's just like you're seeing, but then something else has to be there. And I think this is also the bracket that I was talking about. Like when you say that I am a photographer, it just feels like you take a picture, upload it somewhere online, and there's like comments and all coming. But there's also a lot that is happening in terms of collaboration and other things also.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing a lot of references. People are going to love that. So yeah, Vignesh, from your curatorial lens, like what are the challenges of positioning photography as a sustainable and authentic art form in this today's environment?
Um, See, from a cultural perspective, photography is like now thriving, and it's never been like sidelined. Uh, I'm talking globally, but here we are like the for example take this show. Uh, these shows meant to happen slowly things are shifting in Hyderabad if I talk about Hyderabad context. Other than that, there are artists if I can refer to, like there is an artist called Kop Shiva. He's known for his performative photographs, staged photographs, and also Pushpa Mala, again like performative photograph. So there are many artists, Cindy Sherman and the US based artist. She does staged self portraits, and Shirin Nishat. She talks about gender through her photographies, through moving images and all. So um, sustainability, if I talk, photography has a lot of potential, and it's very versatile because it goes with everything and anything. As you said, Vinod said, collaboration. So it has a lot of potential of collaborating with writers, music, or anything like even performance. There are like these artists did performative photography. So yeah.
So I think that was the last question, but I wanted to ask you one single question that is common for all of you. So many students are here who takes photography because of immediate accessibility. So, and they struggle to make it a very deeper conversation. So based on all your experiences and all, like, what do you think, like, how they can move beyond the simply taking photographs and building a long-lasting practice?
See, practice is something which it should come from within, which means your interest. Anyone can take pictures, but again, we talking about the eyes behind the lens. Everyone, I don't believe everyone can click good pictures. Now again, that's a debatable thing. What is good picture? What is a bad picture? So here it reminded me of Hito Sterl. She's a German filmmaker and photographer and a cultural critic. So she wrote an essay called "In Defense of Poor Image." So she's talking about there is like flood of these photographs with bad images, grainy images, damaged images, and there is a lot of remixes that are happening and which are spread, copies, pasted, used without any authority or without any sense, which is floating online. So now, okay, that is the thing which we can do it. But what I am talking about is, uh, the technical terms. When we talk about who knows photography from a traditional practice or like traditional technicalities, what they have learned is different. But also, a person who is not studied and who doesn't know principles of photography can also be a good photographer. Okay, but it's all about your sense and intent, the purpose behind clicking the picture, any picture, or why you're clicking it. Otherwise, we have accessibility, right? Like everyone is clicking pictures, but in the sake of capturing a memory. But during that time, that moment, they are also not immersing themselves in that space, but they are thinking, okay, I captured it, I'll go back but to my home and I but that never happens. It just keep compiling in their phones or cloud memory or cloud storage, like that. And yeah, like to think, it's it's a consistent journey, I believe. If you keep clicking, you will start seeing a language in yourself, like you're forming a language. So it takes a lot of time. It's like no one can become a overnight photographer or a artist or any way like that.
I think first thing is patience, and with today's Instagram and everything, what we do is we just quickly make images and quickly post them online, which doesn't give us a scope and window to really think what we have done on that particular day. And my projects generally go for 6 to 7 years, and I've been doing a work on my aunt's death for almost 8 years. And I don't know, I was talking to a friend and she was like, because I write a lot of letters to her, and now I think that that work will take another maybe 6 or 7 years, because I miss. I want to tell so much that about me in those letters, and I think I can't really end that work right away. And I think photography is beautiful that way if you can give it a lots of patience and time, especially if it's documentary and art photography. There's hardly any money. There are grants now in India which are coming up, and which is nice, but even then it's like lots of limitations. There are age limitations, there are limitations with respect to the land and other things. And Also, I think when we start our photo practice, we always shoot what is very out there and not what really matters to us. And I think for me, it took me 5 years to reach to a point of shooting what really matters to me, because of course it's all rat race out there, and unknowingly we fall into the rat race and we keep shooting. You know that something like a festival like Bonalo is a great place to make images, and even on the top floor I see half of the images are all Bonalo, and you know that that is good. So maybe sometimes it's better not to do what's good and also see what is really nice. So I've been teaching a module in the design college in JNFAU, and there was I was like showing lots of work, and a girl came to me and she just took photographs of her hand holding on to her granny, a friend, and everything. And that is, I just felt so good when I saw that. And she told me that, sir, this is what matters to me. And I think all of us need, as photographers, we all need to, I think, start taking images of really what matters to us, then what will give us likes or what will be like bombastic and big name and other things. Because I think we see lots of that as patterns, and all these patterns fade after a while because there are too many people making too many similar images. And for me, not recently, always it's been faith, but then my layers of understanding faith changes because I'm an atheist. I was born and brought up as an atheist. So for me to understand still theology, it's taken me 10 years, and I think it'll take a lot more. So I think as practitioners in any field, I think give it a lot of patience. For money, do something, but then for your art, you do something. So there's a very clear demarcation which I draw, and I've not been very successful in that, but I still keep jumping either other. But yeah, I think that's how it is. Yeah. So
Sharath, want to say about your experience in village? Because when I see your images, very interesting that its camera is very invisible, as if you look like with eyes. It's very interesting that it's hardly uh, as a good photographer, it is very difficult to control that. You had done that, so I want to hear from you.
There is nothing to share. Actually,
Just experience how you done.
so I studied photography in JNU from 2006 to 2010. So there is a film camera, Nikon camera. That was my first camera. So I used to go to festivals like whatever is popular. I used to shoot. Even Mysore Dasara, Ponalu Vinayak Chavithi. I used to shoot everything actually. Whatever excites me, I used to shoot. After the college, I mean 2009, I used to notice my surroundings. Like ఊర్లోనే మా విలేజ్లోనే. సో నేను ఇలా అనుకోని తీయలేదు, ఇట్స్ హ్యాపెండ్. ఇలా పోతే ఇవన్నీ 2010 నుంచి తీసిన ఇమేజెస్. ఇట్లా ఇట్స్ లైక్ లాస్ట్ అండ్ ఫౌండ్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ థింగ్ యాక్చువల్లీ. ఇలా చెప్పలేదు. I missed something, I got something, like it's everything. And also everything used to excite me. నా సరౌండింగ్స్లో నా పక్కన అందరూ వెళ్తున్నారు, బట్ ఎవరు తీయట్లేదు. అట్లానే కాదు కానీ ఐ హ్యావ్ ఎ కెమెరా, సో ఈ క్యారీ కెమెరా.
Yeah, so I think that was a very great observation, Sunil, because I also didn't thought of that, but now it looks like yes. Yeah. So thank you actually all, thank you all for your patience, and to listening to our nonsense things. I think so. I hope it makes sense. And any questions or any doubts, any comments if you have, and if you are not feeling very open, you can tag me and put your doubts. Just call it out. It's Pila Jola.
Correct. One more thing from Sunil sir's question actually. There is this on the very basic things actually. The very basic things I never noticed until I was looking at my old images. I never noticed two basic. They are very basic, but I never noticed. There is an example. Amit curated that field home field. So actually, every day మనం చూస్తాం ఇంట్లో అమ్మ నాన్న దే గో టు ఫార్మ్ దే వర్క్ దే కమ్ బ్యాక్ బట్ అది నాకు యాక్చువల్లీ అదంతా ఫీల్ అవ్వలేదు నేను ఇప్పుడు ఇంట్లో తీశాను అమ్మ నాన్న ఫోటోస్ పొలం దగ్గర తీశాను బట్ అంటే అంత బేసిక్ది ఐ నెవర్ క్యూరేట్ అంటే అట్లా అరేంజ్ చేయడం కూడా వెరీ వెరీ బేసిక్ ఇది ఎందుకు మనకు తెలియలేదు అని బట్ ఐ హ్యావ్ ద ఇమేజ్ ఈవెన్ ఇవి కాకుండా లైక్ చాలా ఉన్నాయి చుట్టుపక్కల మా ఊళ్ళో నేను తీసినవి పొలం దగ్గర ఈవెన్ క్రాప్స్ కూడా పత్తి మిర్చి కాటన్ అవన్నీ క్రాప్స్ అవి చేంజింగ్ నవ్వు సార్ అప్పుడు నేను 15 years కింద తీసిన క్రాప్స్ ఇప్పుడు లేవు
Yeah.
సో ఇట్స్ వెరీ బేసిక్ దెర్ ఇస్ ఎ హ్యూజ్ సబ్జెక్ట్.
I just wanted to ask Vignesh something. You were talking about how in Hyderabad and even in India, art is different and photography not much happens. Do you think it's because you can multiply images, you can just hit print and
Yeah.
photographs, you can make thousands of photographs, whereas art is always one, like the true art or like one sculpture. Do you think that also is a reason? Because I've been also thinking like why not many photo shows happen, and even if they happen, not many turn out. And of course IPF happens here where it's always a full house, but do you think it's also because photographs can be multiplied? And
Yeah, it's also because of that, and immediately what it comes to my mind is even printmaking. It struggles to put up a show, like printmakers. So forget, because editions to multiply hote hain, and photography is also it's like that, and also when we are talking about galleries works on commercial aspect, right? So which is straight, when it comes to photography, उसमें ज़्यादा पैसा प्रॉफिट नहीं होता है. सिंपल सी बात है, अगर फोटोग्राफी एग्जीबिशन भी करोगे तो, लेकिन स्टिल लाइक अगर फोटोग्राफी रघुराई का फोटोग्राफी शो होता है, शाज जंग का होता है, वाइल्ड लाइफ फोटोग्राफर, तो दे सेल their works, but not as much as of a painting of a famous artist, an established artist or a painter, like that. So that is still there, it's because of the nature of the photography, the nature of the print making practice. And there are also places like Chennai Photo Binale, which is doing good, which is giving a huge platform for many photographers, basically lens-based artists.
Anybody?
So you guys spoke about the ethics, how to practice ethics in photography, right? So one of the questions that I had for you, which I didn't think came up through the panel, was the rule of consent. Because, and it'd be nice if you guys as actual practitioners spoke about what that meant for each of you when you practice different kinds of art forms that you guys have been practicing. Yeah. The rule of consent.
Then again, comes back to the ethics only, because that is one of the reasons I and that is one of the reasons I said it is nothing to do with art. It is usable as a life practice. Then I need to be ethical. Ethics always have a rationality. Moral doesn't. So moral comes with the culture which we are living in, because that is passed down to us. Ethics comes back to your own knowledge, individual knowledge, and your understanding the logical aspect of it. So when you are borrowing some image, taking somebody's image, using it in a certain way. So that's ethically wrong because of that. We need to be very careful for that. I remember one of very celebrated artists in it is Bombay, maybe from Baroda. He came to present his work in our department. He was doing this large 10 feet, large, highly realistic paintings, extremely skillful guy, and using the subject beggars and taking their pictures and calling them into the studio, taking their pictures and giving them some money, and again they will go back to the beg in the street. And he paints it and he earns money millions then or lakhs there. Money is not a point I was taking. That's why I had an objection with him only in the presentation. That's why do those beggar know that where you are going to sell this work or which gallery you are putting it, how many people are seeing this work in those conditions because you are hiring realistic painting, it's a 10 feet high. So that ethical question comes that as an individual artist, how do we orient yourself?
So how does one navigate that?
That's what I'm saying. You need to have that support as a responsible behavior. I'm not taking all the time.
That's becoming a tokenism kind of.
Give it to the brand. Because you need to connect to the people, connect to the place, connect to the subject. So that human tendency is there that I want to use this. And this is everything is made for me. This tree is made for me, the river is made for me, the mountain is made for me. It's not for me use. I remember my home in Bijapur. In front of that there was one beautiful tree. It used to give a fruit. And one fine day I went and it was not there. I asked my father why you removed it. So it stopped giving fruits. It's a simple reason for it. So it is not about what I am getting it. As long as I am getting it, it is fine. If it is not getting it, I don't need it. That demarcation has to be as a human being we need to do. Forget about art, any art practice, whether it is a camera, brush, or sculpture. You need to be ethically conscious that what kind of contribution you put. Because at the end of the day, your practice is going to connect to the people. Because today you are there in the gallery, Sharath is there in the gallery to explain his work. This image will go for a long time. And this will always says that Sharath used it, not contributed it, if he is not responsible. So that we need to be conscious of all those things. Yeah,
And also as a practicing photographer, I feel you get consent right there at the field. Like the first stage of consent happens there, and most of the times when the photographer is honest, I think it shows in your face, and most of the times everything is okay. The problem of consent happens when there is a public space and a private space. I don't want to name this photographer, but this was photographer who was shooting Kuvagam, the trance thing that happens in Chennai. It happens for like 2-3 days, and this particular photographer shot pictures inside the lodge where they were staying, and then he had a talk somewhere in Chennai where the audience started saying that we have spoken to this person and they didn't want the picture here. So I think where the consent is very different when it's public space and a private space, when you're going into someone's homes and other things. And also I think it's more like how you said, it's about the intent of the photographer, and if it's to show or to show something which is very powerful and needed as a discussion, and I think then you get your consent at the space where you're shooting. Because most of the times I get a lot of no, because you know that it's no, and you just go. That's why I don't like street photography, because it makes fun of everything. You see a gamcha hole and there is someone juxtaposing a head behind. That's become a trend now, this entire juxtaposing. There's a photographer from Delhi who does that a lot, and he's got like insane followers, and everyone is doing that. A chicken head is like overlapped with another head. I don't get it, because it's making fun of the community, and you don't see street photography happening in richer places. No one has guts to shoot street photography in the mall. They'll just go to sorry, am I like being rough or something? Yeah, but because I'm angry, okay, because I've also done that and I've moved away from it, and youngsters, they don't understand because they just feel juxtaposing two things is like cool. It's not cool, and that's where I have a problem. Where you know, this guy is like walking and there is some kicking sign and you just take a picture of as if like the kicking sign and the guy. So that's where I think it's a big problem, especially in documentary and journalism. Consent, generally you get it very easily, and most of the times they are the ones who will be like, okay, please tell my story.
And sometimes consent is also that, in this particularly beggar case I'm saying, and the beggar is okay with that. He got the money, gave a picture, and if you ask them actually, is that okay if I'm showing it to Gary? It's okay. But even then it's a problem. You can't say that, oh, I got the permission, but the problem. So the consent also has to be in an equal standard. How do we approach it?
In a written form?
No. Not about I'm saying that written form or anything, but consciously you know that what kind of level we are. If you are in a power hierarchy already, you got some kind of machine in your hand, and you are educated, and you go to a certain place which are culturally or they are in a lower order, and you say, can I take it? They say, okay. Is that okay for you? That question you need to figure out. It's not that only yes or no. I'm saying. Even forget about the human beings. Even plays. They don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
There also you need to have this consciousness. Then how do I take this picture? And where I'm putting it? That consciousness has to be there. So that's very important. I figured out in this specific course while working or while reading with an important artist.
I want to ask you about in terms of consent, right? Now with AI using all these images, including your own work that you've spent 7 years, 8 years, and then you will eventually publish it, which will also be basically taken up by AI, and someone makes this image of juxtaposition using your image eventually, but you don't know where the source is coming from, no credit given whatsoever. Where do you think we're going?
I personally think I like AI a lot.
AI we like.
I think if someone wants to generate, Pratik Arora, who does lots of cool AI stuff, and I've been a huge fan of what he does. And if someone wants to do that with my images, I'll give away my authorship and give those images, because I think we make images for everyone to collaborate, right? So the way that authorship for me is very different. And I've been working on a project about Cyanide Mohan. Do any of you know Cyanide Mohan? So he was a massive serial killer in Bangalore. He used to promise women that he'll marry them, and then he would take them to the hotel rooms very close to the Bangalore bus stands, and he would lace tablets with cyanide, and all of them would go inside the bathroom and lock them and take the tablet thinking that it's okay, and they would die inside. So for a long time they all thought that they were suicides, until government finally some wrong call and everything came out. So I was like shocked, like how this guy and what he wrote to those women, or what messages. So I was and for me, I didn't have budget to travel, and I couldn't stay in rooms and photograph. So I've been generating lots of AI images of empty, dingy rooms next to a bus stand. So for me, I've been using that, and I've been writing lots of letters thinking I'm Mohan and I'm the other lady, and trying to exchange an entire dialogue. So I'm going to do like one dialogue and one picture, one dialogue, one picture. So I think this is where I think AI becomes very interesting, where you can sit and conceptualize it, and I don't know whose picture it is taking, but until then I'm okay. But I think AI has like an amazing role, because especially with Pratik Arora's work, I think I'm so fascinated, because he made an entire family of ghosts, and I would love to see that, but I can't recreate, and recreating that would take so much money, like you need makeup artists, stylists, but then why not, why not expand our visual grammar and like go beyond than just feeling that maybe this is like taking, because I don't have a problem with authorship, maybe I'm okay giving up.
Then we don't need to worry about AI. Because always been when the camera came also this is the intent we had. Calculator came this is the intent we had.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that at least nowadays they will make that as a labor every day coming for our morning cleaning for me time. We are that intelligent, so don't need to worry. I'm saying we can exploit it, but consciously use it. But worry what is where the propaganda machine use it. There is the crisis with the AI. Because it is just like a knife. You cut tomato, you kill somebody. So if the wrong big person got that weapon with the wrong purpose, then he can do anything. So that is the scary part for this AI, because it is easily doing it. Because morphing voice, morphing videos, which is really difficult to feel that it's a real escape. I'm optimistic, so I don't know it can be good or bad, but mostly it is good. Because I can trust humanity, so they will use it well. Yeah, she was asking.
Mine was regarding the previous concern. Like, for the example of the beggar you gave, or like street photography, those are easy examples of a very stark hierarchy or a power imbalance that is very obvious. So you know what is wrong, what is right. Right? It's easy to say that somebody is unethical. But I am curious about maybe photographs that are there in this room. Right? There are still photographs of the other, of people that I'm guessing the photographer does not personally know all the time. So there is, photographers usually have this thing of a good image or that contrast and juxtaposition or Roland Barthes says the puncture that needs to be there in a photograph to make it stand out. So if you were to go and speak to those people, you make your subject conscious. You make that candidness or whatever that people or photographers often chase would be lost. So how do you navigate consent? How do you navigate composition or capturing authenticity? Things like that.
I think in my practice I'm very curious because I also come from journalism and other things. So most of the times I have a dialogue before and then make the image. And these days I take very straightforward images like portraits and all, where I also talk and take images. So I think the thing that you're saying is like, this entire fly on the wall kind of photography, that's where that happens. But otherwise I think there are many photographers with whom I shoot in this room, and all of them are like so curious. They ask people and they talk to them and then make the picture. And the decisive moment that you're talking about also happens later when they're also bored with you and they're like, okay, let me do my job and I'm going to just exist here and you also exist. So sometimes it happens later than the first part. So I've realized I'm a photographer who likes to first talk and then maybe make the image later. I think that's where also you get the consent and also you get your image.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and some portraits during the street photography practice. So actually, I used to wake up late. So I had a thought to go out of my flat. So I took up a project, street portrait project. So that time I should shoot people with portraits. So I took consent. I used to talk to them. All of them, like 90%. I used to write their name and the place name. So the magic goes away actually when we talk to them. They will get calls, yes. It's a huge block, I feel. Some portraits I shot candidly. Like I used to talk to them and I felt like I should disappear sometime, I come back. But the magic goes away in the portrait. And if you prepare them, the magic goes.
Yes. Magic is the problem. Even not in photography, in every art medium, we should be staying away from that.
In portraits I felt, in landscape I don't
No, I should say anyway. Even in landscape, there is a magic.
But landscape
There
is
is a kind of light, some kind of mood or everything. But then, so that is the, I'm talking about the aesthetic taste, which is carried on from multiple directions to us. So we need to carefully understanding it and using it in our right purpose. I'm saying that. You should not be victim of the magic. Because that is there in even in fine arts, that particularly printing. And somehow I managed to, at least last 6 years, 7 years, I need to disturb that area. You know, not completely successful, so disturb that area. Because in printing also some similar to the print media what you all are dealing with. There is a certain kind of a demarcations like this has to be like this and this has to be like this. Tonal variation, color, black and white. There is nothing to do with the subject. It's nothing to do with the concept. It's about the technique. And even in the marble sculpture used to have that quality. So it has to be finished like this, it has to be glazed like this, polished like this, something like that. So these are the all magic moments which we all had an artist. So somewhere down the line that pulls us a little bit back. I'm not saying it's bad, but at least consciously use it very well. And it's important because we need to take it to public place. But sometimes we need to be very in control of that area, that you know how one can use it in a very interestingly, that you know, how I can communicate with people. Because the magic moment is always not invented by only the artist. It is also the market which is invented. So market which is saying that you know this has to be like that because it suits the people home, wall and other compositions in their life. That's one of the reasons. It is spread through till our studio. When I'm putting camera, brush, that magic moment, I look for it. It is nothing to do with art, it's not something to do with money.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
One question. What would be an average screen time?
For me,
Yes.
mine is 3 hours.
Yeah.
3.5 hours.
So that's like an average. I don't know everybody was watching Instagram, but I thought like
Yeah,
for a photographer, it's a lot more.
No, 3 hours, 3 hours.
Do you like cut off like sometime like no photo day or like
You don't need to put a restriction.
restrictions like that or like?
No need to restriction. Again, it is like somebody office boss. You know, till 5:30 you are at work. Not like that. It's the concept is decision. If somebody is working with the images, he wants to use 24 hours. The screen.
That's what I know.
His work is in the screen.
3 hours.
His work is in the screen. So it's up to us that how well I want to use it.
And I think also Instagram, you learn so much these days. If you can keep hitting not interested in the explore,
Yeah.
there's so much of information that comes. Like I'm being like crazy, like such nice information comes. It's just like, of course, you need to browse through
Which is
2-3
more
very bad
relevant.
reels, and then you again get back to your content.
Yeah.
So I'm really addicted to Instagram. I can't come out.
Everybody like addicted, like
Yeah.
everybody like.
Yeah, I also have a time limit, but I keep snoozing it and
Yeah.
do it like.
Again, it comes back to the algorithm. Because you know, what kind of taste you have, that will keep providing. So you should consciously know that, why it is coming.
Yeah.
It is not in your liking it. You trained it. Your system is trained to provide something material to you.
So they will just avoid it, right? Because it's a drug, you know, it's very dangerous.
It's like Samgita said, like playing around with the photographer and start wearing up black clothes. It's like
Monochromatic.
but we're learning a lot of things, like playing around. But
Wow, like you guys made up till 7.
I actually
Thank
have
you.
one last question to Vignesh.
Yeah.
So you know how photography is usually as a tool globally in like the photography industry where people use it as a medium in art, right? Not just like commercially. So, but like in India, photography largely is more commercial. Yeah, you don't have a lot of artists. Like for example, people consider themselves as a visual artist,
Yeah.
and his medium is photography, which is a lot of people think that it's new, but if you take like global photography space, it's really not that new. But like in India, it's I think maybe catching up now. I don't know, but what do you think? Where is India heading, or like in that photography in Hyderabad?
Mm, I have closely seen the artists, basically like art practitioners, using photography as a part of a medium, of the process. Basically, it becomes a um, companion during the process of what they are making. And some artists actually documenting itself is their practice. Just clicking and documenting and writing about it, archiving itself is a practice for many artists like that. They are practicing that way. They're looking at photography like that. And there are also organizations like Asia Art Archives, which is totally based on the documentation of photo documentation, right? So we are like many lens-based artists, especially emerging artists. They are going back to archiving and documentation and making that as their practice. And not because that is also, and there are that's also not commercial, but there are organizations which funds them and gives the fellowship to work on to sustain their practice they are doing. Oh, was it convincing?
No, I'm just curious about the landscape of photography in India right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's my observation, I could say.
Because there's also like a lot of mixed media that happens in photography.
Yeah.
It becomes very tactile, and we do interviews like you said, I think music, culture.
Yeah.
Especially if you take still lifes also, like you have a lot of sculptors who do like make stuff.
Yeah.
They create it, and then camera just becomes sort of the documentation. Like you said, documentation itself becomes
Practice.
photography.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Sunil sir, Vinod, and Vignesh.
Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone.
So, 1 second. So, it's like it's like a low budget movie. But I do have something to offer them.